Hey guys, and welcome back to the theBSofSociety. So, given the recent anniversary debacle with mihoyo, I kind of want to discuss my grievances with the company. First, I want to start off with the good things, all right? Now, just a heads up, this video will probably be very long and will be broken up just like the bubble universe theory videos. So, here we go. So, when I started playing Honky Impact 3, almost 2 years ago, I started basically I think in October 24th of 2019. So basically almost 2 years now. When I started Honky Impact, I was blown away. The reason I started playing it was because I watched uh, an ad that I believe Giga made on his channel for the game. And I was just like, wow, this is a mobile game? I mean, I think the last time I played a 3D mobile game was like some kind of zombie game, like not COD zombies, but something else, right? And I mean, Honky even trumped those kind of games. And it trumped a lot of gacha games because, like, we all know gacha games are kind of trash. And mobile games in general are just kind of trash. Like, they have fake ads and all that. Pretty much all of the ads mihoyo has made for Honky Impact are legitimate. I mean, some of their ads as of late might be a little questionable, but even then, a lot of that tapping and stuff does occur at the end of those chapters. So their ads are very much legitimate, right? And that amazed me. And then just the free to play aspect amazed me. You got to figure that the last gacha game I played before Honky Impact was Dark Summoner. A very, very trashy, simple game. And then we go on to Honky, which is much better than Clash of Clans, Boom Beach, and all those I've played beforehand, right? And I was just like, wow, I finally have another game that I can play on my phone. So I started playing it. The gacha rates, while not the best, they're decent. I mean, I've seen free to play players after 1 year get pretty far in their S rank category. A decent amount of 4-star weapons and all that. Yeah, I mean, it was a great game, right? Um, you really don't run across issues in Honky Impact until one, like the first issue you might run across is the stamina issue because after like 1 or 2 weeks of farming, you'll notice that you're not getting stamina anymore from leveling up. I mean, you still get stamina from leveling up, but you're not leveling up as much. I think after like level 40, a full set of stam bottles will no longer, or a full set of, you get 60 stamina per level up, right? And pretty much after around level 40 or so, that leveling up will no longer give you enough stamina to let you get to the next level, right? So that's kind of the first issue, but really the first major issue you run across is probably from Abyss, right? And I can maybe get into that a little later, but even so, that Abyss isn't the same way as every other PvP system because it's like, one, you're still fighting mobs. Two, players that haven't played the game for 2 years are not holding you back from being able to progress. So you can actually get to those mid-tier levels that most long-time free-to-play players and budget players will actually get to. Right? I like the fact that Honky gave free outfits. I like the fact that the characters moved around when you hit their interaction, right? And even way back then, there was actually a touch system similar to Azur Lane where you could actually touch the Valkyries, like head pat them, stuff like that. And that was really cool. Obviously, they removed that, but yeah. Um, and you just get decent rewards. I feel like you get things at a decent rate, right? But I didn't start running across issues with mihoyo pretty much until Genshin came out. Once Genshin came out, that's when things started to go from good to questionable, and at this point, outright bad. See, when Genshin Impact came out, I really thought Genshin Impact would actually do a lot better than Honky Impact, right? I mean, you got 20, I think it was like 10 Acquaint Fates and then 10 Intertwined Fates right off the rip when the game came out, right? You got a buttload of Primo Gems from chess. I mean, I think it totaled up to like, maybe like 8K in total if you looked at the two regions. Um, for AR-55, you probably got a pretty decent amount of Primo Gems and Acquaint Fates between, 1 and 55. You had the statues of the seven, two different statues of the sevens. You just got a lot of stuff. And for like 1 or 2 months, you basically had content after content after content after content. Right? But I started to notice something, even for myself. I was always like, well, stop running through the game so fast. You wouldn't run out of content. Even I myself pretty much got through Leeway pretty much after 1 or 2 months. And that was just casually playing ish, right? Because I was still looking for a job and all that stuff. And, spending a lot of time looking for a job and stuff with interviews and all that. Yeah. So, but that's not too bad. mihoyo tends to put out new content pretty quickly. I understand that they were working on Inazuma in Dragonspine, and when mihoyo puts out updates, they actually work. The last thing we want is them to put out an update and stuff not working. Right? So I kind of give mihoyo a little bit of a pass here. At least for a little while, right? I mean, Genshin just came out and all that. Like give them a chance to kind of start making new content and figure out the situation of how to deal with having Honky Impact and Genshin Impact at the same time. Okay? So then Dragonspine comes out, and, everybody enjoys it for a little bit, and then they start getting a little pissed off because now they don't have any content again. And, Dragonspine basically becomes utterly useless. Well, see, and by then, I've already noticed a couple problems that Genshin Impact has that are no longer present in Honky Impact. Okay, the resin system, 120 is not enough. 120 was never enough. Are you kidding me? Oh, and then before that, they also had like a daily boss type resin thing that was basically your condensed resin. They ended up getting rid of that by launch, if I'm not mistaken. So now you basically don't even have that as an extra set of resin to be able to run through daily bosses. Um, but yeah, so just to do the math for you, at 8 minutes per resin, 120 is actually the same amount of time of recharge as 160 stamina on Honky Impact. But here's the thing. You run through that resin so quickly, especially if you're doing daily bosses. That's 3 daily boss runs. That's 3 condensed resin. That don't take that long to run through. Okay? I can say that for a fact. Okay? And I'm using starter characters and it doesn't take me that long to run through. I think I run through some of the domains in like 2 minutes. With the 4 starter characters. Animo Traveler, Amber, Kaya, and Lisa, and they don't even have all their artifacts yet. Amber and Kaya are still missing decent artifacts. And I'm running through things this quickly. Meanwhile, Honky, I have to have really strong units to be able to run through things that fast. So, this is already strike number 1 that Genshin is being treated differently than Honky. Now, see, at that time, I always made the excuse of, well, Honky had these issues too. But, somebody made a good point that if Honky already had the issues and they were fixed, why did they repeat them in Genshin Impact? Fair point. Strike 2. Weekly bosses. Honky also has weekly bosses, not counting Memorial Arena, or at least it had weekly bosses. But, those you can kind of farm throughout the entire week and they didn't cost stamina. They costed another resource. Genshin Impact, you can only run through every boss once a week to get rewards. Can I ask, why can't you just make the boss cost 60 resin and be done with it? Like, if they just made the weekly bosses just cost 60 resin and let you do them as much as you wanted, that would have been nice. No, mihoyo can't think that far, can they? Right? Okay. So, again, these two systems were very different because you could have easily just made another resource to farm these bosses with. Strike 2. Right? And then the gacha system. Before we get into the gacha system, I'd like to note one other thing about the whole content issue. So, there's this thing in Honky Impact called the Abyss, which Genshin Impact has the Spiral Abyss. But there's 2 other pieces of content that Genshin is missing. You have Memorial Arena, which, I'm going to be honest, should have been added a little bit ago in Genshin Impact, and the Elysian Realm. Which, the Elysian Realm was basically this little... Before it was ran as events, where basically you would go through a series of stages with 1 unit and a bunch of support units, right? You could have 2 support units at a time and then 1 main unit that you were using. Now, you couldn't switch this main unit out. But basically, it was kind of like a trial, in a way, right? Where basically you could take 1 single unit and run through a series of stages and see if you can make it to the end. That is basically what Elysian Realm is, and that's exactly what that was. If you had a time stage and you don't finish it within a certain amount of time, you basically had to restart the entire thing. Right? And the thing is we kind of have something like that in Genshin Impact. For any of you that play Arknights, you would know something called contingency contracts. The hypostasis events and contingency contracts worked almost entirely the same. You would basically put a bunch of units together, set it to the highest difficulty, and try a bunch of strategies to see if you can beat it. Right? Same thing with the hypostasis event. It's like, which teams can actually beat all of these units given all of these modifiers? Right? Now, my thing is that they should bring that back, or even better, make another kind of Abyss style domain, but basically you're only allowed, like 1 to 2 main units, and then everybody else is basically support. And by support, I mean you basically click on them, they throw out their ulti, and then that's all they can do. Right? And then their ulti takes maybe double the amount of the original time to charge. And there you go. Right? And the way Elysian Realm works is basically you get given buff cards at the end of every stage, and they're randomized. Right? So every run isn't necessarily going to be the same all the time. Some runs might be really bad just because of the buff cards. Some runs might be really good where you just cheese through the entire thing. Right? And then you still have your standard difficulty modifiers to give the enemies buffs, increase their health and all that stuff too. Right? And basically you're using the units that you already have. Right? And Elysian Realm is kind of one of those ways to essentially play the game as much as you want. The same thing goes for the Abyss and Hunky Impact. You see, Spiral Abyss, one of the major issues with it is that it doesn't have a difficulty scaling, right? I would say the Spiral Abyss in Genshin Impact works more like Memorial Arena in Hunky Impact. But see, even the Memorial Arena, you could technically sit there and play it all day long because you can sit there and try to get the best score possible, right? Because the better the score you get, the higher up the leaderboards you are, and slightly more rewards that you get, right?
Same thing goes for the Abyss.
The further up the ladder you can move to means that you possibly get put into the next little arena, right? So maybe moving from Agony 3 to Red Lotus, therefore yielding you more crystals if you can clear all the stages in Red Lotus. Regardless if you can, get past the players or not, right? And while that is technically PvP, it's not really the same thing as PvP in other games because you're not being held down the same way you do in other gacha games, right? If players are AFKing, they're going to be thrown all the way back down to the Forgiven area or Unforgiven area, whichever it's called. Basically like the first little set, and everybody can pass them. That's how budget players are managing to get to Agony, right? Kind of like me. I'm in Agony because I'm not being held down by other players, right? They can easily add something like this to Genshin Impact as well, because guess what? This actually affects, because you have difficulty scaling, you actually get content that's situated around your difficulty. I got put into Red Lotus a week or two ago, and guess what? That crap was pretty difficult. I mean, if I wasn't playing at my best, I wouldn't be able to clear any of them stages, because that's just how long it took to kill the enemies, right? Compared to Agony, where it takes me like a minute and a half to kill everything because I just nuke them all. Right, but again, I'm still at my same difficulty. I'm not clearing the stage in 2 seconds like I do in Memorial Arena. Memorial Arena takes me like 5 minutes. Maybe besides the new triple S rank that they added for the first boss in the list. So my thing is basically kind of like, where is this in Genshin? Like, I feel like this should have just been, kind of like how Spiral Abyss was made pretty much on launch. I feel like that's how Memorial Arena and maybe not Elysian Realm, because Elysian Realm wasn't out then, but at least Memorial Arena, where you can, even if you can't fight the weekly bosses, switch out the daily bosses and put them on a 5-minute timer to see how fast you can clear them out, and give people another source of primo gems. And, the last thing before we move on to the next part, right, is the other reason why I want to see Memorial Arena and Elysian Realm into Genshin Impact
is because you figure that is more permanent content that wouldn't require resin, right? In Honky Impact, the Abyss, Memorial Arena, and the Elysian Realm do not require stamina. Same thing goes for the Spiral Abyss in Genshin Impact. You don't need resin to run through it. So, in terms of content issues, that would kind of fix the content issues a little bit. Now, my suggestion would be to make Spiral Abyss reset every week, have Memorial Arena and Elysian Realm reset every week, for Primo Gym rewards and all that. And overall, just have both, all these systems in both games. Simple as that. However, there is a difficulty issue that I need to address in the next little part here. Okay, so the difficulty scaling in Honky's Abyss does kind of get a little dumb. So basically, when you're in like Agony 1, Agony 2, Agony 3, you're situated around the same difficulty, no matter if you're in Agony 1 or Agony 3. So you figure everybody in Agony 3 should basically be getting around like 800 extra points from the boss, and everybody in Agony 1 is probably getting around 2 to 300. Everybody in Agony 2 is probably getting like 5 to 800, right? Now, the problem is that the way the disturbance works is if the majority of the people clear it extremely fast, like 800 points, 700 points plus, the disturbance goes up, which means the difficulty increases without you necessarily moving on to the next bracket. Okay. I rarely see it go down unless it reaches like a cap or something, right? I mean, I think the highest I've seen the Agony disturbance go up to is like 287. Now, here's the deal. The reason why I got kicked out of Red Lotus is because I cannot deal with like 350 disturbance. I can barely even deal with 280. So I'm going to be getting pissed off as a budget player if that thing keeps increasing over and over and over and over and over. I mean, I just can't deal with it. I mean, I'm going to get thrown out of my bracket because I just can't handle it, right? And that's the thing that bothers me about the disturbance, is because what ends up happening eventually is if you can't clear one of the stages before the boss stage, you're going to miss out on a lot of points in your bracket just because you can't get to the boss stage. And that's a major problem with the Abyss. And it's personally why I like the old Abyss a little bit more, because there really wasn't necessarily like a timer on every single stage or anything like that. But that's kind of the reason why I hate the disturbance. And the easiest way to fix it is basically make a set difficulty on each tier. Agony 1, Agony 2, Agony 3, even have a separate difficulty on those, like 220 Agony 1, 250 Agony 2, 280 Agony 3. Red Lotus can be like 350, Nirvana can be like 450, and then those that are placed in Myriad go like 550. Those in Sinful, it would be like, 120, 150, 180, and then you go to Agony. And then for the Unforgiven section, make that like 50 or even just straight up 0. I mean, I don't think it's that hard to do, because you already do it in Memorial Arena. Now, albeit that is kind of the reason why I can clear Memorial Arena so easy, but it would be a lot more forgiving and a lot less annoying. Okay? Second thing with the difficulty that I didn't mention in the last part. When you release a new character, can you please stop making the weather effects situated around those characters? Elysia just came out. So you made every single abyss situated around damage types. Not just physical damage, but damage types in general. Stop. The reason why I got up to Red Lotus is because when Fischl came out, every single abyss was basically lightning damage. And my lightning damage is probably my strongest team, especially when they're being buffed. I mean, they were so strong that even when they were getting debuffed, they were still dealing more damage than my ranged physical team. That is probably just as strong. I mean, slightly less, but still just as strong. You know, especially when they're buffed. So, what? What? Mm-mm. And the same thing happens in Genshin Impact. Like, when Kazuha came out, they made a buff to Anemo characters. Right? Not only that, but the Spiral Abyss was also, guess what, situated around Anemo characters. Oh, I wonder why. Oh, right, because they want you to spend on Kazuha. Anybody see a problem with this? mihoyo, this is what we call pay to win. And it is very annoying. Okay? Now, the reason why other gacha games are called pay to win is because they have PvP in them. And I mean PvP against player characters. Right? So imagine me using Hesher of Thunder against any other of the Mei battlesuits. That's what those other gacha games are. Okay? Who do you think is going to win? It definitely won't be those other Meis. I can guarantee you that right now. It'll be Hesher of Thunder. So if you don't have a Hesher of Thunder, sorry, you're screwed. That's why those other games are called pay to win. Do you know why yours is called pay to win? Because, you need a specific damage type for the Abyss. That just so happens to be the same thing as the unit on the banner. Pay to win much? Okay. And even the last Abyss that just ended yesterday was an ice damage. Guess who was on the banner? Oh, right, an ice damage unit. Very interesting, considering the fact almost all of the ice rank damage units are all S rank. Only one of those are two of those are farmable. I think you only have one A rank ice damage. Maybe a couple A rank freeze damage. But that's basically it. See a problem with this, mihoyo? This is yet another frustration that I have. Anyways, I think we can finally move on to the gacha rates. Okay, I lied. Let me kind of rediscuss how that Abyss run went, okay? Now, I believe I was in Red Lotus at the time when that Abyss run came up, okay? But basically, this is how it was. Type counters had a 20% increase. Now, there are 5 different types in Honky Impact aside from elemental damage and physical damage, okay? So you have Mecha, which counters Bio, Bio, which counters Psychic, and Psychic, which counters Mecha. And then you have Quantum, which counters itself, and then Imaginary, which counters itself. And Quantum and Imaginary have like a down effect toward each other. Now, the damage increase for the upside is 30%. And obviously the reverse is a 30% decrease in damage. Okay? So, my physical range team is Bio, pretty much. The entire team is Bio. Now, the boss for this Abyss run was a Mecha. So, obviously they were being countered. Which I figure usually isn't much of a big deal in Honky Impact. Like, I've gotten into an argument with a Girls Frontline community where it's like, oh, you need these specific units to, or, these specific type of units to deal with counters. And it's like, you really don't. If you know how to play the game properly, you really don't need counters. Now, except for situations where you have a lot of damage that you need to deal. And this is what surprised me. Okay, when it comes to Abyss and Memorial Arena, the bosses actually have resistances towards elemental and physical damage sometimes as well. So this boss was Fuwa. Fuwa has a high resistance, not an immunity, but a high resistance to all elemental damage. So you would think, even though I have this counter of her being a mecha, well, it's fine because, my team is dealing physical damage. No. I bring in my lightning team, which is my strongest team in the entire game, and I do better with them. Keep in mind, yes, they're getting the extra, counter effects, because I think the way it works with the Abyss is basically, I don't think it goes from 30 to 36. I think it goes from 30 to 50%, right? Because the type counter effects are basically increased by another 20%. And, that's kind of how I read it. So, basically meaning my lightning team, because they're pretty much all psychic type, they were getting a 50% damage increase, but Fuwa had a high lightning damage resistance, which I think the high end of the damage resistance goes up to like 70 or 90% damage reduction for that damage type. So I figured my lightning team would deal less damage. No, they dealt way more damage. And I was just sitting there like, what the fuck is this shit? Right? Now, here's where the problem comes in. Do you know why those effects were there? Why it was a type counter of plus 20%? Oh, well, let's see. Elysia just so happens to be a psychic unit too. She also happens to be physical damage. So we have a boss unit that is a mecha that gets countered by psychic. And then she's also highly resistant to elemental damage, making physical damage a priority to bring. Yeah, so basically that Abyss run was made, or should we say rerun, specifically for Elysia. Oh, and guess who the recommended Valkyries were? She was the leader. Elysia was the leader. And for those of you that don't play Honky Impact, the same thing happened when Kaza came out. They buffed Animo damage, and in that same Spiral Abyss run, they made Animo damage priority. Basically, if you were using Animo damage and managed to hit like swirl attacks or whatever, you would get like a 300% damage buff. mihoyo. This is direct pay to win. This isn't just, oh, I'm getting thrown into a bunch of PvP lobbies and everybody's beating me because people just so happen to get lucky in the gacha. In PvP gacha games, even free-to-play players sometimes get lucky and manage to get on the top of the leaderboards for a month or two. But this is different. Okay? This is every single banner. It's like you need the banner unit or you're not going to be able to do the stage. Now, obviously, you can use alternatives, right? Like, if Hesher of Thunder comes back up on the banner and there's a lightning damage round, right? You can use a weaker lightning team, like, Dark Bolt Jonin or whatever, right? Or like when Hesher Flamesion came out, I was still using my original fire team because they're my only alternative right now, right? But at the same time, it's like Elysia, at least for AoE damage, she deals a load of damage. And I've seen her in co-op mode. She deals so much more damage on her own than Hesher the Void could ever do. Whether it's against a full team or not. And that's the problem. Especially since for both more specifically Hunky Impact, if you don't have a character's weapon, and I mean their exact weapon, not just some random 4-star weapon. No, if you don't have their exact weapon, and if you don't have it pre-armed, if it can be pre-armed, they will do dog shit worth of damage. Compared to Genshin Impact, where I feel comfortable throwing on a 3-star weapon, and my characters can deal decent damage because they have decent artifacts. You don't even really need a character-specific artifact set. You know, people complaining about Yoimiya being useless, throw in a pyro damage set. She looks like a pretty decent pyro damage user. Throw that on. Screw the set that they made for her. If it sucks, it sucks. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Right? But yeah. Now we can move on to the next part.
Oh boy, the gacha system. This is where Genshin and Honki have major differences. Okay, in Honki Impact, it's a 1.5% chance to get the S rank. Okay? The dorm supply is basically, your standard banner, right? Actually costs less crystals than the expansion supply banners. Okay, than the main rate up banners. So, kind of ease the burden because, well, you're getting a lot of different units. It's not all guaranteed, but you're spending less. Right? Genshin Impact, both banners cost the same amount of Primo Gems. Why? And to make things worse, neither banner guarantees you characters. Okay? For the main banner, the rate up banner, you have a 50-50 before you get to the hard pity. So you have a soft pity at the start. When you hit the hard pity, you just spent, 180 pulls times 160? Let's see. Let me pull up my calculator real quick and just do the math right now, right? So 180 times 160 is 28,800 Primo Gems. Okay? Now the pity and Hunky Impact is 100 pulls at 280 crystals per pull. So you're spending 800 more Primo Gems to guarantee the 5-star. Albeit you've gotten 80 extra pulls and 1 additional chance at a 5-star. But at the same time, you spent more Primo Gems on the rate up 5-star. This all wouldn't be so bad if mihoyo did one thing. Can we add units to the standard banner? Please. 4 stars they add to the standard banner. 5 stars they don't. Why? See, in Honky Impact, when an S rank gets too old, they add them to the dorm supply. Okay, so like Hesher Reason just got added. Archonite Rita just got added. Stigma Nymph just got added. These are old S ranks that are still really good, but they just added them to the dorm supply because they're not rerunning their banners anymore. But in Genshin Impact, even after they rerun a banner, they don't add them to this standard supply banner. Which, keep in mind, once they add them to the standard supply, then they can be added into the 5-star supply on the 50-50. Meaning, let's say Zhongli, who had a rerun banner, or even Clay, or Venti, all 3 of them had a rerun. Can we add them to the standard banner pulls? Because we know eventually you're not going to rerun these banners. As a matter of fact, you add more characters per update on Genshin Impact than you do on Honky Impact. See, on Honky Impact, per update, there's one new character added. Whether it's A rank, an S rank, whatever. One new character. Genshin Impact, probably one 4-star, one 5-star on both banners. Usually, at a minimum, 2 new characters. Sometimes you'll have just one new character. Like during the Golden Archipelago event, there was only one new character on that one. But, and then if you're spending so many Primo Gems for the 5-star that you actually want, wow. Okay, so this is yet another difference. See, and here's the thing, mihoyo. Adding one character at a time means you can kind of drip feed a little bit more. I mean, I understand why you're adding a lot of characters because your whales are just going to finish one character at a time anyways. But, just saying, for the free-play players, it kind of helps them catch up a little bit. Okay? And then the last thing. Every single A rank that has ever existed in Honky are all farmable. What does this mean? That means you don't have to get them out of the gacha system. At all. The only A rank that is not farmable is Asuka. Because her event is already passed. And obviously, we all know collabs pretty much. Once the collab event is over, that's that. Unless, of course, you're collabing with yourself like Fischl. Right? Genshin, not only do you already have this really bad system, but also none of the 4-stars are farmable. I mean, even the 4-stars that you get for free in the game, they aren't farmable after that. You have to gacha pull for all of their constellations. Why? Can't you just make some of these useless domains a place to farm for constellations? Even if it's at a really bad rate, let me farm for constellations, homie. Okay? Actually, there is one more thing I think I forgot. The rates. I think I slightly mentioned them, but 0.6 for a 5-star in Genshin and 1.5% on Honky. 0.3% if you want a specific 5-star unit in Genshin Impact, compared to a 1.5% for a specific unit in Honky. Do you know what Genshin did? Do you know what mihoyo did for the pity in Genshin? Or, for the rates? There is actually a 1.6% chance of getting a 5-star, if you include pity. Do you know what this means? It means that for the rates in Genshin Impact, they made it the exact same. The only difference is that in Genshin Impact, they're including it with the pity. For anybody that knows what happened with Punishing Grey Raven in Japan when it initially came out, the devs used the rates, including the pity. They included the pity with the rates. Gacha gamers don't like that. Actually, it's a really good way to make them quit your game, mihoyo. When I saw that, I almost wanted to quit the game immediately. I didn't because it's mihoyo, but so yeah, we're starting off real strong, mihoyo. We're starting off real strong. Let's talk about events.
Before we get to events, there's one other thing that I thought about that I think I should add to this little series here. See, in Honky Impact, all of the A ranks are farmable, right? And even some of the S ranks are also farmable. Albeit they're a little bit slower, but still almost, I would say at least half of the units in Honky Impact are farmable. Possibly even 2/3 of them. Now, I think the easy way to solve the content issue in Genshin Impact is by allowing units to be farmable. This is what I'm thinking. Some of these useless domains that you don't use anymore, you could put 4-star characters at least into these domains and maybe make like a little fragment system, right? Where you need maybe 150 fragments for a single constellation, right? So basically, then every single unit, you would basically need what? Even if you use the fragments to unlock the unit as well, basically then you would do 150 times 7, right? Since my brain wants to be slow real quick, 150 times 7 would basically be 1,050 fragments. Now, you can make these infinitely farmable. So as long as you get resin or whatever, you can keep farming them. And it would be another good place to use your resin. And you can make the exact same system that you have in Honky Impact. After every 3 runs, the the set kind of resets, and after every 3 runs, you are guaranteed a fragment. Right? And this system would be very, very free to play friendly. And you don't have to you don't have to make it for the 5 stars. Just the 4 stars. And for the 5 stars, at least the ones on the standard banner, I think they should have a similar system, but maybe you can only run through the domain like 3 times a week. And it costs like 60 resin. Because that's pretty much how the S ranks are on Honky, where basically you get material out of the Memorial Arena and Abyss, and you use that for your weekly farm of S ranks. So if you made a Memorial Arena for Genshin Impact, you could even do it for that too. And again, pretty much the same system. Basically 1,050 fragments, and you get all of their constellations. Right? And then whenever you decide to add units to the standard banner, there you go. And I think you would solve the content issue, because I'm going to be honest, farming for artifacts is not fun. It really is not fun. And when you do that every single day for like 200, 300, 500 times per character, the domains kind of get boring. See, the reason why I'm able to play Honky Impact so much is because you end up having 4 different stages, all with stage limits. But again, they're different stages for every single unit. So you're not farming the exact same stage over and over and over. Once you're done with the unit, you're done. I think the only ones you're farming over and over and over again is for like the anti-entropy imagination and the Scastol imaginations. That's basically it, but even then, you have other places that go and farm those. Like the events. This is yet another difference though. Because without this type of system, pretty much means you have to spend more money in Genshin Impact just because you can't get them. You can't get any character outside of those first 6 without spending any more gacha currency. Even Noelle, you have to spend gacha currency to get her. Right? Anyways, onto the events.
See, the events in Honky Impact and Genshin are ran a lot differently. In Honky Impact, you have to play events pretty much every day in order to get everything you actually want. Genshin Impact, you can pretty much just play it all in one day and you're done. And by all in one day, I mean in about 2 or 3 hours. The Wind Tracer event, which was the first one I played, 2 or 3 hours and I got all the coins I needed. It's a fun time, but still, that was pretty quick. Going to Archipelago took quite a long time, actually, because of exploring the island. But if you didn't care about exploring the island, again, 2 or 3 hours. You know, if you do the quest, add on another 2 hours. You know, that one might have took 2 or 3 days worth of farming. And that's kind of playing it all day, right? So that one was a little longer. But pretty much every event that doesn't involve new maps, 2 or 3 hours to play the actual event content. And I bet this new event won't be any different either. I might even just wait and see how long it'd actually take me to actually run through everything once it all comes out. 2 or 3 hours maybe? An hour per set of chests or whatever. Maybe another hour or two for each of the challenges. So what, maybe 6 hours to a day? And then you include the story, about another 2 or 3 hours. Wow, that is pretty fast. Oh, not only that, but events in Genshin Impact are ran much quicker. Probably 14 days at most. The Golden Archipelago had the most. But basically 14 days. You might get one for 21 days. Honky Impact, pretty much every event has 3 weeks at a bare minimum. Possibly even 4 weeks. And again, you have to play content every single day. And it might take you 20 or 30 minutes every single day. What this means is that it takes a little longer in Honky. Like if you add the time in total, I spend more time on each Honky event than I do on Genshin's in a single update. Why? Now I will say this for players that like complaining about the rewards in Genshin Impact. The Primo Gym rewards are actually pretty good. Okay? I would say for both Honky and Genshin events, you pretty much get the same amount of gacha currency on both. Honky gets less events, on a frequent basis because, they're running for basically half the update at a time. And you might get like 200 or 300 crystals on a, non-major event, right? Anniversary, you'll probably get a couple thousand, but if it's not summer or anything like that, you might get like 400 or 500 per event, maybe. Genshin Impact, you get like, say 7 days times 60, right? That's about 420. That's pretty good, especially since you figure a new event every single week in a way, giving you that many Primo Gems. And your Primo Gems do go further because, again, even though you have to make another 80 pulls to get your guaranteed 5-star, guess what? That's another 80 extra pulls. You're spending another 80 extra pulls instead of just 100. Right? You're almost doubling. You're basically doing 1.8 times the amount of pulls on Genshin compared to the amount of pulls you're doing on Honky. Which, this is a major improvement, and this is one of the improvements I was looking forward to in Genshin. Now we need to see this kind of improvement in Honky. Okay? So this one really isn't much of a grievance, but Not until you get to the anniversary.
Okay, so this part I've had to re-record because I got kind of pissed off when I did my original recording of the entire video. So let's retry this. Okay. Now my stance on the anniversary has kind of changed since I did the original recording. Thanks to Tech Tone and me kind of waking up. You know, I mean, sometimes when the Twitter community gets in an outrage, you know, you kind of end up falling in line. You know, but I kind of just want to say something on this, right? mihoyo, you have to look at how the community saw that web event. First of all, what people saw was basically 100 Primo Gems going out to 1,000 people. Or around there. That's basically what I saw. 100 Primo Gems? For fan art. Fan art that would be high quality enough to get like 200 times that. 10 to 30 bucks per purchase. Like that kind of fan art. No. No. Okay, definitely not. And let's not even forget to mention the whole 10% chance for a welcome moon BS. Homie, no. As a matter of fact, it would have been nice if you gave everybody a welcome moon. Just because of how successful Genshin is. Okay? And we'll get back to that in a bit. What made it worse is miHoYo's auto post deletion system that basically deleted miHoYo's post because it got downvoted and reported so much, right? Now here's the thing. miHoYo reposted it. But what that also means is that they had the authority to make changes to it. And that's what I saw, personally. That's why I made my original recording in such a pissed off mood, because that's what I saw. What I ended up seeing was like the first set of people like at the top of the list, basically, getting like 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 Primo Gems, plus like iPhones and all that, which I know the iPhones and stuff were kind of in that originally, but they kind of added that to there as well. miHoYo, you started making changes because of community backlash. The damage is already done. Okay, and I'm going to get back to that in the in-game rewards as well. Okay? But that's basically what the community saw. And if you look at videos from like Hero Hey and stuff, that's basically what I saw. He made an original video talking about it where I saw the 100 Primo Gems for 1,000 participants. And then I saw another video where the thing went down, and then basically during that video or some other video you saw it come back up. And the rewards are different. You can obviously see the shade, miHoYo. You can't hide it. Okay? Now, for the in-game rewards. This is the part that really baffles me. Okay? Because for both Honky and Genshin, I can kind of say that the web rewards were kind of the same. Right? Where you basically kind of got, like something else besides crystals for it. But the in-game rewards is really what baffles me. Okay? 10 pulls. As a matter of fact, it was basically a rerun of an event from the Lantern Light event or whatever. The one that was ran all the way back for the Chinese New Year. Yikes, homie. You did nothing for the anniversary? Now, what baffles me... Okay, first of all, because of community backlash, I think one of the bundles that they were going to put up for sale, they have basically been made available now. Right? If you logged in the past 4 days and you got the mail, You got 1600 Primo Gems, plus like two, wing glider and a furniture and 4 fragile resin. We can all tell that was a bundle, mihoyo. You were going to originally sell that to us. Thanks for giving it to us. Thanks for giving it to us as an anniversary reward, but again, the damage has already been done. It's a little bit too late for that. Players are not going to forgive you. Now, here's what you should have done. And again, this is what baffles me the most. The Honky Impact rewards for the 3rd anniversary. For the Honky Impact Global 3rd anniversary, the rewards were 20 times better. Okay, that might be an exaggeration, but still. So here's what you got, right? You got a free Hesher of the Void, who is probably one of the strongest single target ranged units in the game. Okay, and what makes her so strong is her weapon, which they also gave you for free. That's like getting Venti and then his bow for free. Okay? Then you got a free S-rank gacha egg, which basically means that of the units that are basically in the gacha egg, you could pick one of them, and if you don't own one of them, guess what? That's a free unit for you. That's like getting a gacha egg to pick one of the 5 stars off the standard banner. Right? On top of 15 to 20 pulls for the weapon banner. Okay, which keep in mind, weapons in Honky Impact matter so much more than they do in Genshin Impact. If you don't have a unit's exact weapon, they are going to do trash worth of damage. And if they're a support unit, they're not going to be able to support very well. And I've personally seen that. And it's another thing for mihoyo, and you know what? I might actually make a second part on that. But, so you basically get 2 units. One of them is a specific unit. One of them you can get picked from a gacha egg. And then you get a free weapon for the specific unit. Then you get the 15 to 20 pulls. Let's not forget the large amount of crystals that we got during that event. I think for free-to-play crystals, I probably got, maybe 2,000 or so, I think, from this specific event for the anniversary. Kind of similar to the current event that's going on right now in Genshin Impact, where you basically are getting a ton of Primo Gems than on most normal events. There again, I might have just not been paying attention, and they're actually normal. So somebody can correct me on it. But I think besides the Goan Archipelago, I don't think I've seen this many Primo Gems. And even then, the Goan Archipelago gave you more. But you get the point. Okay. And then, thanks to the Evangelion collab, mihoyo finally got off their butts and made 2 new backgrounds for Honky Impact. One of them being paid, one of them being free. Yeah, they gave you a free background. Right, this is kind of more like free furniture in a way for Genshin Impact. And that is basically the gist of the rewards for free. I can't remember what else they gave, but that's basically what I remember. How hard is this to replicate in Genshin Impact? You can easily code a gacha egg to give us stuff for free. What? I mean, you gave us Beto just a minute ago. You can't just give us an egg that allows us to exchange it with somebody to get a free 5-star unit. I mean, I don't think it's that hard, mihoyo. And what baffles me so much is that you did this for the Honky Impact 3rd anniversary for Global. But you can't do this for Genshin Impact. Keep in mind, Genshin Impact has probably made more money during this entire year than Honky Impact has made during its lifetime. And you gave us worse rewards on Genshin Impact? Now, this entire video, this full video, I have made because of the major differences in Genshin Impact and Honky. This one was the breaking point for me. These anniversary rewards in Genshin Impact made the differences between Honky Impact and Genshin go from kind of manageable, where they kind of made sense, to what the living hell, mihoyo. It's almost as if Genshin Impact is treated as an unwanted child. Now, maybe that's because of the community, and I have made a video that's going to come out after this entire set of videos are done, where I'm going to roast the Genshin community over this anniversary. Okay. But I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, so basically I made a video for me basically getting into the Genshin Impact community over the anniversary rewards. But, Genshin is basically just being treated like an unwanted child. One, there's no Memorial Arena in Spiral Abyss. Sorry, there's a Spiral Abyss, but the Abyss is not set up the same way as it is on Honky Impact, and I think they could have done better with the Spiral Abyss. There's no Memorial Arena, and now that Elysian Realm has been added, there's none of that either. And Elysian Realm is basically just your contingency contracts from Arknights and your hypostasis events from Genshin, but the hypostasis events are not permanent, kind of similar to how contingency contracts were not permanent. mihoyo, can you make these 3 things, okay, for content, so players would stop complaining? Second, make the rewards. Honestly, since Genshin is new, you can make the rewards better on Genshin, especially since it's making you more money. Okay, that kind of difference I can accept. I can't not accept this difference, where you're making Genshin Impact worse. You're basically making Genshin Impact look like another Raid Shadow Legends. It's basically what you're making Genshin look like. Now, for players like myself, I'm not going to quit over this issue. Honestly, Genshin treats you like, Genshin is a mobile game. Okay, Genshin is a mobile game. Nothing's going to change that. You can take it off the mobile platform and it's still going to be a mobile game. Okay? And you have to treat it as such so that way you can get through some of these issues. And just be like, well, it's part of the mobile game genre. Because the moment you start treating it like a PC and console game, that's when EA and Activision are going to start their BS. And that's how I'm able to get past the anniversary rewards. Now, I think I mentioned this in the anniversary. Or not the anniversary. I think I mentioned this in the video about the Genshin community. But I want to mention it here. mihoyo, I understand why the anniversary rewards are trash now. I understand the CCP has kind of been up your ass. So you don't really have much time to deal with it, right? Focus on the CCP right now before you focus on us. Because if you get effed by the CCP, you're not going to make it out. We both know that. Okay? And I want the Genshin Impact community to understand this. And I may actually have to re-record the Genshin Impact community video now because of this. But yeah. So just know, mihoyo, I do understand the issues that you're going through right now. And That is the only reason I can forgive you for these anniversaries. If it wasn't for the CCP, this anniversary would be almost unforgivable because you've made a better anniversary in Honky Impact Third 6 months ago. Okay? For the Genshin Anniversary 2 and the Honky Impact 4th Anniversary and the Chinese Honky Impact 5th Anniversary, make the rewards just as good as you did for the Honky Impact 3rd Global Anniversary. And I don't think you'll see any more complaints. Because those rewards were the best I've ever seen. And doing this would remove the differences there between Honky and Genshin, or at the very least, make Genshin Impact your biggest moneymaker better than Honky. And keep in mind, Honky Impact is your older game. Honky Impact shouldn't be looking better than Genshin. And the reason why I say that is because Honky Impact 3 is doing better than Gun Girl Z. Not because that's still active, but because, in general, you've made Honky Impact 3rd a lot better than Gun Girl Z. Might have taken you a little bit of time, but you got there. Anyways, I dragged this part on long enough. So, let's go on to the conclusion. So, in conclusion, pretty much over the last 2 years, pretty much before Genshin Impact, I mean, sure, there was a lot of things that were bothering me, but it really didn't become apparent until Genshin Impact came out. Because when Genshin Impact came out, I started to notice, basically the differences between Genshin and Honky, and I tried ignoring them. And then the anniversary rewards came around, and it's pretty obvious that Genshin Impact is treated as an unwanted child by mihoyo. And like I said, I think I understand why the anniversary rewards are the way they are, because the CCP is kind of going after mihoyo right now. But at the same time, mihoyo, you have to understand that players are going to quit your game. And if that's your goal, to make them quit the game, fine. But keep in mind, you might lose your Honky players as well. Basically the things that bothered me are basically, the resin system. Uh, that the content is kind of different. There's not the same kind of permanent content. Um, just the fact that you need weapons to make characters as strong as possible, or like especially their specific weapons on Honky Impact. Um, the content on Honky has a little bit more difficulty than it does on Genshin. The rewards are better on Honky, especially for anniversary rewards, than they are in Genshin. And see, I'm re-recording this part as well. And I just got done watching the little concert that they had for Honky. And one thing is very noticeable too, right? Is that there are a lot of character songs in Honky Impact. I figured at least for Raiden A, they would have made a character song for her, possibly even reusing the one that they made for Mei a long time ago. But yeah. And I can understand mihoyo treating Honky as their pride and joy because Kiana Castellano was the first character that they made. Ever. She was in their very first game. They carried her over to Honky Impact 2 and then carried her over to Honky Impact 3. And the pretty much the first new starter character that they made was Aether and Lumine. And then they had the other starter characters on that other gacha game. But yeah, basically Aether and Lumine was their first new starter characters. And it sounds like
assuming their announcement of Honky was it Honky? Well, anyways, during the concert, it looked like they announced another Honky game or even a Honky animation. And I think the main character is not going to be Kiana, but I guess is going to be a student of Kiana in a way. Right, so I mean, Honky Impact is basically what made mihoyo mihoyo. So Genshin Impact is more of a cash cow in a way, and I think that's how it's being treated. And I feel like that's just part of the problem. mihoyo, you made Genshin Impact. You need to treat it as good as you do Honky Impact. Just because, one, Genshin is more popular, and two, you got to treat your children with respect. And Genshin Impact is another child of yours. Treat her well. And that will basically be not only one franchise from you, but two franchises from you that we can all come to know and love. And eventually, you could possibly even pull the two universes together. Because a lot of us still suspect that Aether and Lumine came from the Honky universe. You know? I would love to see that. But the frustrations that you have in Genshin Impact that don't exist in Honky Impact, that shouldn't exist in Genshin Impact, you know, like the resin should be 5 minutes, or the resin should be 6 minutes per tick, just like in Honky Impact, especially now that you raise the cap. You know, weekly bosses shouldn't really cost resin. You know, you need to have more permanent content and all that. A lot of those frustrations are going to make people quit, and then eventually you're going to lose your new cash cow. And it's going to just be Honky again, and what are you going to do? Just make another Genshin Impact later on? I mean, it doesn't look financially viable to me. So, yeah. Anyways, that is basically the end of this entire video or sets of videos. Yeah, next video will probably be about, or should we say, after the full version of this video releases, then we will be talking about the Genshin community. Because y'all got ridiculous. Anyways, with that being said, peace. Also, disclaimer, a lot of this video, and I'm probably going to put it as an edit at the beginning of the video, but a lot of the things in this video were recorded like a week or two ago. So, just so y'all know that. Pretty much I recorded it during the entire fiasco of the Genshin anniversary, and some of these parts I recorded. Or, some of these parts I re-recorded. So, yeah, peace.
What have you done? I saw that! Those poor ducks! It was for the pigeons. Go away! I never want to see you again! Ever! I'm telling Mommy!